FBI office. I have been up in the assembly before. I was up in the 2009-2011 session, and I went to one of their legislative training schools up there. I went to 2 special sessions, and once I got out of my actual work, that's when I decided to get into politics, and I had the time to do it. My family and I have been here for 35 years. We like it here. The way I vote is best for what I think is for the community and the state that I represent. When I was up in the assembly, I have a fairly conservative voting record.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. I think we're ready to turn it over to the panel for questions. Who's first?
Hi there, I'm Scott LAFATA. Richard, given your FBI background and also your conservative background, we have a pressing issue in front of us in the legislature, not this session, next. And what's your position on legalizing recreational marijuana?
It's something I probably would not be supporting. There's still, for me, there's way too much information out there about the marijuana and how that could lead to other drugs. So for me, it's a no.
All right, thank you very much. And then John, your position on the same issue?
For me, that would be a yes. I think we could look to Colorado and the other states that have legalized it now, look at their model and base our model off of that. I think it would be providing a great tax base for that. It would also clear out our jails from the low-level drug offenders that are currently being arrested and save the county money.
Great, thank you very much.
Next question.
Hi, this goes for both of you. What do you think is the biggest problem facing your district right now? And what are you gonna do to solve it?
What's the biggest problem?
Yes.
Because of what is going on right now, or the laws that are going in?
What is the biggest problem in general facing your district?
Well, I walk every day. I walk 6 days a week, and the biggest thing that I run into with almost every single person, they all come up with a lot of different things, but the biggest thing is that tax increase. And they all dislike that a lot. They all understand that's really bad for business. And so that's the biggest problem facing everyone that I talk to.
John?
Absolutely. For me, most of the people that I talk to, it's about jobs and getting people back to work. Our district is pretty affluent as far as it's a large number of college-educated individuals, 18 to 39 years old, and that's the bulk of the district. And it's making sure that the economy is running smoothly, people are getting back to work. Although Nevada, we were out of that Great Recession, we're still not fully recovered. So it's important that we put measures in place that get people back to work and get our economy going, continuing on its growth spurt.
This question is, if you guys feel that the water is on the right track as far as job creation, given that we just come out of the 2007 crash, you guys feel that we're going at the current pace as far as job growth? Questions for both of you?
No, not on the right track. That big, huge tax increase is killing business. If you want jobs, you don't kill businesses. I mean, the thing you have to remember is that jobs and prosperity comes from business, not government. So that's one of the biggest things against forming jobs here.
And for me, I think we're moving in the right direction, but I do think that we need to do more for our community to make sure that we're creating more jobs, especially in the alternative energy industry. I think that's going to be the next growth spurt here in Nevada. And I think because of the unique positioning of our community, as far as the sun shines on us all the time, even though today it's weird that it's raining today, but it's very rare, right? I think we need to get moving in that direction more forcefully than we have been in the past, and I think that's going to generate a lot of jobs here.
All right. Next question.
This one goes out to both of you. If elected, if you could do one thing, accomplish one thing to help Nevada veterans, what would it be? Richard, you might as well go ahead. You were in before. You know. I won't tell Michelle Fiore, okay?
She was the one that got me in this again.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I don't know, because when I was in there before, the Democrats ran everything, and I didn't have a lot of my bills that went through, and I put several bills in to help the military. And so I don't know if you're just talking about one bill, what I would do to help them. But, you know, I talked to the veterans, and if there's something they really want, I'll put that in. I know before, a couple of them I put in, I don't remember. A couple of them were really simple. When they get shipped overseas, they shouldn't have to pay registration fees on their automobiles that are just sitting there. That one didn't go through either. So there's bills that I'll look at, and I'll be quite honest with you, I don't look at a lot of bills that way right now until the primary's over. Then I start looking at all that stuff and seeing what the other people are actually putting in for the bills, and then decide how I'm going to go at it.
For me, Mr. Connell, to answer your questions, I know exactly where I would start. I know that the PA has been challenging the existence of the Justice Court, Veterans Court. So for me, that would be to ensure that that program remains stable, viable, and if that means we need to create statutory language in that statute to make sure that that goes on and remains functioning the way that it has been. I've actually represented veterans in Veterans Court, so I understand the problems with it and the things that need to change. So for me, that would be one of my main focuses, making sure that that program is more open for veterans to take a part of, and it does function the way that it's supposed to, where if the veteran completes that program, he gets a dismissal at the end, and then we can seal his record. I actually started a sealing records program with Judge Padda. You guys may or may not have interviewed her yet, but if you do, be sure that you talk to her about the amazingness of that program that we created with being a legal aid center and stuff like that. That being said, we could work in conjunction with that to make that process smoother as well, the records process for veterans.
This is very much a nonpartisan question. It has been unofficially said that the largest inpatient treatment facility for mental health people is the Clark County Detention Center, because so many people get arrested, and that's the only place they're getting any kind of mental health treatment, and on something of a regular basis. We're in dire need of mental health treatment facilities. Parole and probation needs more people. Child Protective Services needs more people. What would you do to try and get more resources and services for mental health people, the mentally ill in Nevada? This question's for both of you, so I guess Richard, out of courtesy, you could go first, but it's a good question for both of you.
That's a problem we're going to have with a lot of things, resources. And the big tax increase we had, that doesn't help anyone. And I've talked to some other people, and the thing they wanted to help them out is, well, we'd like more taxes. I said, do you ever look at the spending side first and see where all the problems are? To see where all the waste is? I mean, just look at me with a blank stare. So there's a lot of things I'd like to do like that to help. But I'd like to find, instead of raising taxes, I'd like to find where we have waste and where we don't need other spending.
Mr. Willick, I think you've hit the nail on the head about a major issue that's going to be coming up in our community. You're right. The Clark County Detention Center is the primary warehouse as well as the Nevada State Prisons for our mentally ill. If we are housing them at the Clark County Detention Center for $125 a day and in prison for up to $25,000 a year or more depending on their medical needs, we are wasting money, and that's a place where we can take that money that we're wasting, housing them in a place that is unhealthy for people who are mentally sound, but for people who have mental issues, it's even worse for them. And make community-based services. Right now, we have like two things in town. People can walk to Southern Nevada Adult Mental Health, and we can hope that they stick with it and get their medication, or we can devote some resources that we spend on imprisoning these people who are committing crimes because of their mental illness, not because of their proclivity to commit crimes. We can spend those resources locally, create some programs here locally, work with mental health care treatment providers locally, and it wouldn't really be raising taxes. Taking that $125 a day and spending it on a local-based program.
Thank you. Very good. Next panel.
So, as an Army veteran, I'd like to welcome you both home and thank you for your service. I appreciate you guys showing the veteran community that can lead from the front, so to speak. So my question is for you, Mr. Piro. So being a Democrat is more an ideological question. And a veteran, how can you decide with a party who's continuously voted on multiple state levels or government levels against veteran initiatives?
I think if we just try to categorize one person based on a whole party, I think then we're looking at too narrow of a view. So like some of my views are liberal inside of the Democratic Party, but some of my views are more conservative. So the Democratic Party is the party that I have chosen to align with. However, that doesn't mean that I just would go with the party line, sir, or just roll with party rhetoric, so to speak. I think that each one of us can be independent in our thoughts and in our actions.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daphne Lee. This question is for both of you. Regarding the warrantless NSA spying program that has not been reined in by Congress and doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon, the reaction is about 12 states so far have stood up in their state legislatures trying to push forth some sort of legislation that is either non-compliant to the NSA, not providing any material support. Where do you stand as far as seeing states' rights as a check and balance against federal overreach and unconstitutional programs like warrantless spying? And would you be supportive of co-sponsoring or voting for legislation that was trying to protect the constitutional rights of Nevadans?
It's up to you.
I'm not sure, I don't know what the legislation is on this, and I'm not sure what the states can really do about this. It sounds like it's mostly a federal problem, and just because the states want to try to do something, I'm not sure that's going to be our answer to this. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for.
Let me give you an example. Marijuana is illegal federally, and the states have decided that they're going to go forward anyways, which has now created a movement around the country. Also dating back to women's rights to vote. It actually began with the states taking the initiative state by state to allowing that legalization, and to a point where they pressured the federal government to basically succumb to that. I understand there's some legalities, but it's well in the range of states' rights to not comply with the federal government. They cannot commandeer our cooperation. So we can use the state legislature as a pushback to some of these encroachments legally, you know? So knowing that, what do you think?
Well, that's my problem right there.
Yeah.
If the federal government wants to come in, their laws and their rules overcome the state's rules. When the state can put those things through, as the federal government comes in and wants to arrest people for dealing marijuana, they can. And that was my point. We can put things through with the state, but if you're going against the federal government, you need to change something up there first. I mean, we can do all we want from the state, and if the government really did back off on some things like that, but if they really want to come in and do what their law says, there's really nothing the states can do about it. That was my problem that I had.
Ms. Lee, I guess I have a little bit of a different take than Mr. McArthur. I think Mr. McArthur is definitely right on the marijuana thing. The federal government can come in. But as far as the Constitution, and I deal with the Constitution's 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments every week that I work, almost every day. So the states can make a stronger constitutional rights for the citizens. They can never make less than what the federal government has allowed, but they can go a step further. Now, as far as any specific legislation, I'd have to see it before I would say I would co-sponsor or sponsor anything like that, and see how it would work with federal legislation and would work with our state's constitution. I will say, though, that I am a little bit disturbed that if there is warrantless wiretapping or stingray going on, that I find that problematic, and I do find that an infringement of our constitutional rights. So I would definitely be looking at that. I know that those are tools, and they do have their place, but they should be subject to the 4th Amendment's warrant clause.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello, thank you both for your service, appreciate it. How do you stand on women's rights, right to abortion, Planned Parenthood, the funding for Planned Parenthood?
You're
Always age before people.
I see. As far as, I guess you're asking me about abortion rights, is that basically what you're talking about?
Would you make abortions illegal for women?
No. I mean, I'm pretty conservative on most issues, but that's already the law. They're legal. And I would not go in and try to change that. I mean, I don't like abortion, but even the fact I don't like it, I would still favor it for, rape, incest, and save the life of the mother, even though I don't like it. I'm not going to go out and try to change the law.
The funding for Planned Parenthood.
Use the mic.
What funding?
Could the questioner, could you speak into the
You're
mic?
talking about the money for Planned Parenthood. I have no idea where they get the money. Are you asking if I'm for or against? Money for Planned Parenthood? I don't understand the question.
Well, the state does fund Planned Parenthood.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know.
Mr. Piro?
I think Mr. McArthur hit the nail on the head as well. The law is the law, and it's not going to change. And we see states that are trying to limit that law that are now in litigation at the United States Supreme Court. I'm also for a woman's right to choose. I think that's a difficult choice, and that's difficult. I think that's between the family and the God that they choose to worship. Secondly, speaking to that, Planned Parenthood actually provides other services besides just abortions that are for women's health care. And I think that's a valuable need, especially in our broken healthcare system here, where people just don't get the treatment that they need, the preventative medicine that they need, the education that they need. And I think if we're providing that service outside of just abortions, I think that's a valuable service that is worthy of our tax dollars.
All right, next question.
Hello, for both of you. What are your positions, Mr. McArthur and then Mr. Piro, on the 10th Amendment?
What are you talking about?
The 10th Amendment to the Constitution. The
Which
10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
The 10th Amendment to the Constitution.
I don't remember which one it is.
Okay, Mr. Piro.
So you're talking about the amendment that the rights are not specifically given to the federal government, are those reserved for the state? That's what you're talking about. It's like, this is an underutilized amendment in the Constitution. There's not very much law surrounding that amendment. I think it's an interesting area of law, and I think that people want to try to utilize that amendment to see what things they can do with it. Then I'm all for it. But so it's kind of a vague question. I mean, when you ask me what my position is on that amendment, is there something you?
Well, yes, actually there is. I would ask you, would you consider using the 10th Amendment as a remedy if an Article 5 convention were to come to the table at the legislature and you had to vote yes or no to an Article 5 convention? Would you vote yes or no? And how would you compare the Article 5 option to the 10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights?
Well, now you stumped me. It's like, what's an Article 5 convention?
Okay, the Article 5 Convention of States. So 34 legislatures would have to call an Article 5 to amend the federal constitution. And that is done by state legislatures. So what I'm asking you is, would you be willing to call an Article 5 to amend the Constitution of the United States, or would you invoke the 10th Amendment as a remedy, states' rights to supersede federal overreach? I'm sorry I stumped you.
Go ahead, yes, I'm not familiar with that.
I guess I'm grappling to understand the question. If I think that the federal government's overreaching on an issue, are you asking me if I would use the 10th Amendment to fight that issue? I guess it would just depend on the issue and the legal grounds that we may have to fight that issue.
Next question.
Good afternoon, both of you. Thank you guys for taking some time out of a Saturday. Not a very sunny Saturday, but a Saturday nonetheless. My name is Jim Jonas. I am a radio host for Veterans in Politics. This question is specifically for John. John, if elected, when you answered Tim's question, talking about, you're a Democrat, but that doesn't mean that, you can't disagree with some of the members of your own party and you would be your own person. I guess it's kind of a trust issue for me, but how could you, what promises could you make to me that you would actually keep that word? Because I've heard that said of many politicians, Republican and Democrat, that are running for their first office, and then 6 years later, they're sitting at the same table you are, and I'm looking at their voting record, and they vote down party lines on every single item. What assurance could you give me that that's not going to be you in 6 years if you were fortunate enough to get elected and re-elected?
If I was fortunate enough to get elected and re-elected, the only thing that I can promise you, Mr. Jonas, is that I will look at every issue carefully, be sure to hear out both sides extensively, and then make my decision from there, not just based on a party line or what one side or the other side wants, but doing what's right for the voters in my district and the citizens in the state of Nevada. So that's the only promise I can make you, is that I will carefully vet each option that comes before me.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a question for Richard.
All right, I think we have about 2 minutes left, so why don't we, if anybody has a follow-up question, we can take it now. Otherwise, why don't we give the candidates an opportunity for a 1-minute summation of their candidacy? Mr. McArthur, would you like to start?
Do you have a question, Tim?
No, it's fine. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm running because I was frustrated with what's been going on up in Carson City for the last few years. Michelle Fiore has been our selling woman in something did before. She called me a few months ago and said, I'm running for Congress with you running this Assembly District 4 seat. Obviously I was ready, so I said yes. Some of those things, a couple of those things that were frustrating me up there, I guess, was a big, huge tax increase. That's not going to help business around there. They give millions and millions of dollars up front to Tesla and Faraday, and then they turn around and tax our businesses, I guess, to get the money to get those two companies. We don't know if they're going to work for several years. So I guess that one, and the fact that they're doing things like giving driver's licenses to illegals. I don't understand some of the things they did up there last time. Like I said, I've been here for 35 years. My family and I have been here for that length of time. My daughters went to school here. One went to UNR, one went to UNLV. We like being here. We want to stay here. I want this place to be a good place to live, work, and play. And so that's why I'm going back up there again. Thank you.
Mr. Piro?
Yeah, I think both of us have made it pretty clear to everybody here that we both love our community and we both care about making a positive impact in Carson City for everybody here. There's a couple of things that I want to change. One of those things is the Justice Court, Veterans Court, to make sure that that program is viable. Another thing that I want to work on is alternative energy, comprehensive alternative energy, because I think that's a way to move our economy forward so that we stop facing that boom and bust tourist fluctuation that we face every so often. The third thing that I want to work on, and maybe this will affect some of you guys, is surprise medical billing. It's when you have health insurance that you work hard to maintain, and you go to the hospital that accepts your insurance, but the doctor doesn't accept your insurance. So when you get home, you get a bill for $5,000 to $6,000 because the doctor didn't carry your health insurance. Other states have legislated that out. I'd like to legislate that out if I'm elected and go up there, because I think that's really unfair. I'd also like to take care of some of the people who invested in solar energy, but then the PUC made that ruling that it won't be retroactive. I think taking control of alternative energy in your own hand and having energy choice is important, but I know that it is a complicated issue that's going to need to be worked through other legislation. That being said, if elected, like I promised Mr. Jonas, I will always look at things carefully, vet things carefully, and try to do the right thing for the citizens of the state.
All right, thank you to both candidates.